Welcome back to another episode of Karishma Konnect. This time round with Dr. Adil Alzarooni, who speaks to me about entrepreneurship, family businesses, sustaining failure, his latest book called The Red Island, and a whole lot more. So go check out the episode. It's short, it's sweet, it's simple, it's insightful. And until the next one, stay tuned. This is Karishma. I'll be back yet again. Tada! Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Adil, once again for joining me on this episode of Karishma Konnect. It's a pleasure to host you, and I can't wait to hear more about your journey. And that's the first question I begin with on this podcast. I know it's a long journey to summarize, but I'll still ask you anyways. Can you put together, in a nutshell, the journey so far?
Yeah, graduated as a telecom engineer, worked for Etisalat here and then worked for Mobile in Saudi Arabia. Came back to the UAE with a startup in tech, and then moved to Jebel Ali Free Zone, basically the government of Dubai, heading the Middle East when it comes to developing economic zones, and then headed a global sales function and did that for 10 years. Meanwhile, I did a master's in business, and then I started a family office back in 2009. And as I was doing that, I embarked on a PhD in economics and family businesses. I did that, and around 8 years ago, I dedicated myself to business. I also started another family office around 5 years ago for a family here out of Sharjah, and that is focused on F&B. And around 2 years ago, I established a third group, which is a venture studio that develops startups. My family office is predominantly focused on healthcare, education, some financial services, technology, and real estate. That's basically it.
What's exciting about that space, sir? Because I know right now it is a lot of family offices from around the world are looking to set up here. What's exciting about that space?
I think family offices, first of all, family offices continues to be the main catalyst for jobs globally. Depending on where you are, it's anywhere between 60 and 80% of jobs. And again, depending on where you are, it's 60 to 80% of many countries' GDP, actually. And they play an integral role, a very crucial role in stabilizing many economies, stabilizing many societies. They would usually encompass elements of financial and market intelligence, but added to it elements that are more social and more brand oriented. So they are a unique mix, but a successful mix. I mean, at a point in time, most of these families started with an entrepreneur that has figured out a way to make money basically within the context that they serve. And with that, they have some DNA that has worked in a time and a place and a context that is unique to them. And with that, they, at many instances, as families that continue to try and survive, they very much build on that DNA and that context and that expertise of which it has started with. And the idea of survival becomes navigating, moving forward into different economic cycles and changes in context, basically. So that is the art of sustaining family businesses, put in a nutshell.
Dr. Adil, from entrepreneur to education to now author, you have worn several hats altogether, multiple hats. Is it important to do that in today's times?
I actually believe that humanity has always been that. That has only changed to being super focused on one specific skill only with the Industrial Revolution. I mean, 500,000 years of us as a species. And if you revert back to scientists and a century ago, most of them had multiple skills. They would know a few sciences and maybe music and or art or whatever. Yeah, look at Da Vinci, for example, and many similar stories of Arabic scholars and scientists. They all had multiple hats. And I don't know how actually how humanity has evolved to not do that anymore and just focus on one thing, or be boxed as an engineer or a finance guy or any of that. I think that is unnatural, in fact. So I think naturally humans are curious, and marrying multiple skills has helped evolve this species into many innovations. And I always say the fastest way to innovate is to marry a couple of skills. So, and that is actually how the school started, because we were at the time mainly in healthcare. And we thought, how would we evolve a school that's a bit differentiated and unique? And then when we started developing the school, we realized that there was a huge gap in what the schools produce and what the market needs as of skills. And we realized that the world, beside needing employees, they also need entrepreneurs for it to evolve in a better way. And as a school, with that, we had a substantial focus on producing entrepreneurial teams, which have different mindsets basically and different skill sets that are needed for a world that will most probably see 40% of upcoming generations needing to self-feed basically. So I guess being an entrepreneur and then an educator helped very much see a gap that many in the field would see would have difficulty seeing clearly. So that's an example of how this works. And then you realize a similar thing when you start writing a book, for example. So I'm not a natural, yeah, I'm not a natural author, natural artist, or I thought so. And I needed to try, yes, for 10 years, but then I believe a nice book came out that serves multiple purposes, and it gives me a hint that I can do more with a skill that I didn't know I had. So, and this is how life works.
I know that process can get very isolating when you need to write a book or you need to even bring all of that together in a couple of pages. How did you navigate that process and how did you kind of take that on? And this is more of an advice from the perspective of sharing this with other entrepreneurs who may be coming from from a similar space. Why did you think it was important to do something like that?
As with the scientific books, it's straightforward because you're probably quite an authority in the subject, and with that, seeking the right help from people that do this better than you would become just naturally the right thing to do. To claim all different skills that would be necessary to evolve a book is just not the smartest way of doing things. At the end of the day, what you need, the objective would be to spread knowledge to the widest possible audience of relevance. And with that, figuring out or navigating ways for you to evolve the right team, the right method to deliver knowledge in the most cost-effective and efficient fashion becomes the target. And yes, I went, and with that, I was able to evolve a couple of scientific books. One is on developing economic zones, and the other is about sustaining family offices. Now, the journey is very different when it comes to fiction. Fiction is very personal, is very deep inside, and the audience is way, way wider because you're talking to the world basically, and and with that, it's way harder because competition is also much harder. You could claim authority against specific subjects like family offices, governance, and economic zones development, but you cannot claim authority over fiction. And albeit it's not really the most significant work I have done in my life, but for some reason people see that I'm super excited about it because it's not natural to me. That's probably the reason. And to discover something I have never knew of myself and it's getting validated by people tells you something. Yeah? So as of now, for example, with the novel The Red Island, I've realized that almost 1 out of 3 or out of 4 cry. I didn't see that coming, really. As of now, I have received nothing less than 5 star from all reviews that I've got. And that is surprising. I can still not comprehend that. So, yeah, I mean, every now and then getting a surprise is nice. When I'm asked, Adil, what's your skill, talent? I say I am talentless, but I have one superpower, which is patience. I like to start things and finish them at a certain point in time, and at times it goes for decades. That's okay. Why the rush, basically?
Tell me, sir, you're one of the people I'd like to ask this for entrepreneurs of tomorrow, and that's because I know you have a rather unique vision and you have a rather unique perspective on this. What do you think entrepreneurs of tomorrow need to know when navigating the current scenario that we're dealing with?
There are certain concepts that I see lacking in the whole journey of entrepreneurship. I would advise that getting used to failure is essential in business. By default, things fail. Even successful things fail. And the skill of an entrepreneur, the number one skill of an entrepreneur, is the ability to deal with failure and navigate through it to identify successes. It's something that is very different than what schools teach you and society prep you for. For all of your life, you were punished for making mistakes, but 9 out of 10 businesses, that's 200 years of statistics, fail within the first 3 years. With that, failure is the norm, success is the remote exception. So people need to comprehend these statistics and understand what they are dealing with. And the readier you are, younger you are, the better, because stress is the disease of the century. And that comes mainly driven by societal expectations when it comes to success and failure. So that's one. Second, it's not never the individual. Forget role models when it comes to business. Forget that, super entrepreneur. Statistically, is very rare, and it's never an individual, it's always a team. The sooner you identify a team and know how to manage a team in order to achieve and build business, the better. And that's a very essential skill. And never put all of your eggs in one basket, because failure is the norm, and even successful things fail in time. And with that, you have to do multiple things at the same time. That team has to do multiple businesses at the same time. Because the number 1, 2, and 3 of business, the reason why businesses fail, that one, they ran out of money too soon. And with that, you have to build businesses very cheaply and use the same resources to build multiple businesses. Number two is that you have the wrong team. But then when you build multiple businesses, you learn fast and you get rid of members that are not competent. And number three is to have the wrong product or the wrong marketing or the wrong place. Yeah, you'll try to fix some of that, but it's not really all in your hands. We think many rich people are rich because they were smart. Yeah, they might have been smart, but you cannot ignore that they were, by coincidence or grace of God, better put, they were at the right time in the right place. And many a times that's not in your control. So with that, you need to deal with statistics and you need to deal with the realities of things as an entrepreneur. Last but not least is if it's not, if you don't do business moving forward, bearing in mind AI, just don't start because your competitor will eat you alive in days, not months and years anymore.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dr. Adil, for your time again. It's been a pleasure to host you, and I look forward to sharing this with my audiences. Thank you so much.